Nissan. It's been in the news of late. Yup, you heard me right. Its silence has been shattered by this, the new compact SUV they like to call the Magnite. But in the Jenga tower of compact SUVs in India, it is quite the ask to try and dispose of a few key pegs. Nissan, however, thinks that they have just the piece to do that. Today, we drive the new Magnite to see if it's right. And before we go ahead, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so we can send the best automotive content directly to you. Now first, a question. What exactly is the Magnite? Simply put, it's a compact SUV made in and for India. It's part of Nissan's plan to bring in 8 new models in the coming years.
The Magnite is a sub-4 meter SUV that will go up against the likes of the Nexon, Venue and the Sonnet. And in terms of dimensions, they're more or less similar.
It looks great to me, and that's a good start. Slim headlamps, the L-shaped DRLs, and the way the rear's been designed to give it a distinctive look. The 16-inch wheels do look a bit dwarfed though, and that's thanks to the thick cladding around the wheel arch. But that's passable.
The cabin, however, has some less than great bits that are not as easy to ignore.
For instance, the plastic quality, it's a bit iffy. This dash over here with the soft touch is great, but the rest of it just feels not up to par.
The seats, for instance, are quite supportive, but they're part fabric and part leatherette, and Nissan has done its bit to try and make it feel a bit more upmarket by giving some nice patterns on them.
And honestly, just the decision to go with an all-black dash just makes the entire cabin feel a little bit too dreary. And then there's the 8-inch touchscreen, which, well, honestly, it isn't the biggest in the segment, but that's okay. It's got enough functionality, it's got impressive connectivity thanks to the wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and honestly, it's just fairly easy to navigate the UI. That's more than you can ask for. What I can't deny is the fact that it's got a fair amount of features, as you'll see popping up on your screen right now, and the space in the car is hardly in question. Nissan showed us what it can do with the CMFA platform on the Triber, and there's enough room and more here. The dimensions on paper aren't class-leading, but Nissan's done some tremendous work to make the cabin feel roomy. You'll have no issues seating 5 in this. And when you do, you won't have to worry about safety because Nissan's crammed the Magnite with dual airbags, ABS with EBD, hill start assist, traction control, and Nissan's version of ESC that they like to call Vehicle Dynamics Control. And now to the meat of the action. You've got 2 engines to choose from. Both are 1-litre 3-cylinders and both are petrol. One, however, is turboed and the other one's naturally aspirated. The more powerful turbo gets the option of a CVT and a 5-speed manual to monitor progress. There is no diesel, and Nissan thinks the Magnite doesn't need one. It'll do just fine without it. Honestly, in a segment as competitive as this, it just makes more sense to have a diesel option. Most of its rivals right now have a diesel option. What do you think? Did Nissan miss a trick, or are they right on the ball? Let us know in the comments. Now, what we're driving today is the 1-litre turbo with the 5-speed manual. The combination of the low weight, the Magnite weighs anywhere between 980 kilos and slightly less than 1100 actually. And for that, even though it makes only about 100 horsepower. It's relatively sprightly. It's so much fun to drive. The engine just comes alive in city conditions and highway conditions. At no point will you feel like it's slightly struggling or just out of breath. It's a great engine by itself.
There is plenty of grunt from low down in the rev range, especially when the turbo kicks in, and you never feel like you're left wanting for more power. Does that make it sporty? Well, not really. A few things do get in the way.
I just wish that the steering would give me a little bit more feedback. The gearbox would be a little less notchy. That would just make everything so much sweeter. But other than that, the ride is fairly acceptable. It does crash over big potholes every now and then, but that's not a deal breaker. And the ground clearance at 205 mm is spot on. It's great. It's more than I can ask for in a car of this segment.
Overall then, the Magnite is a car that certainly impresses. It looks really good and will have no issues standing out on our roads. The big positive is that it is very spacious, and when the time calls for it, you can fit 5 people in with ease. Add to that the fact that the 1-litre turbo is a punchy unit, and you have a car that won't struggle even out on highways with that kind of load. And on roads that aren't smooth paved highways, the 205mm ground clearance and the pliant suspension will take care of most rough roads you throw its way.
Now, I fear for Nissan because of its dealer reach, and this is a big concern. Because you can have a great car, but what's the point if no one can buy it? And honestly speaking, I think it will be a success. This hasn't elevated the game like the Kia Sonet did when it launched, but it could still be completely disruptive because of its price. And that's important to us. Heck, it's important to anyone who's buying a car, especially in this segment. The launch is still a week away, but we've already shown you exactly where the Magnite will sit. And this, I believe, is the biggest arrow in the Magnite's quiver. The final piece of the Jenga tower that could disrupt the entire game.
As a reference, the Magnite in the XV premium trim with the CVT will likely be Rs 3 lakh cheaper than a turbo petrol Sonet with a DCT in its top spec. That is not something that you can ignore. Does everyone need a fully loaded compact SUV like the Sonet? I don't think so, and that is where the Magnite steps up.
Thank you for watching. I'm Raunak, this is PowerDrift, and I'll catch you on the next one.